That we have no hope if Jesus has not, in history, on a specific day, risen from the dead. That's our hope.
Matthew, something written by Caesar gives us historical information. An ancient Greek play may be amusing and enlightening, but the Bible claims to speak for God. It should be held to the highest standard. That leaves one more issue. It's one thing to agree that the text is reliable. It's quite another to say that it is true. If these documents have come to us through the centuries intact, that leaves one to wrestle with the significance of what is written in them. Is it God speaking in the Bible? If so, what is he saying? The focus of the Bible is on a central character and a central event in that person's life. Namely, the central person is Jesus Christ. And the central event is his death and resurrection from the dead.
The Apostle Paul puts it this way. Paul, who is the author of more writings in the New Testament than anyone else, says specifically that if Christ has not been raised, then your faith is in vain. That we have no hope. That even Paul is found to be a false witness if Christ has not been raised. And if that's the case, then he continues later on, if there is not resurrection of the dead, then let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. That we have no hope if Jesus has not, in history, on a specific day, risen from the dead. That's our hope.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Gospels, are the four sources of evidence that contain the majority of the historical information about the life of Jesus Christ. Can a person determine what is said about him and what he said about himself? According to the internal test I mentioned earlier, these men were eyewitnesses or close associates of the eyewitnesses.
The Gospels not only report Jesus' teachings and his miracles and his works, but they also report that he claimed to be the Son of God and that he was the messianic figure pointed to repeatedly in the Old Testament. Now, it's one thing indeed to make a claim like that, but another of his claims was that he would die and rise again. So it's one thing to make the claim, it's another to see it happen.
That's what we have with the four Gospels, documented evidence from eyewitnesses. Christianity is the only religion that makes the historical fact of one event the center of its entire message. As Dr. Kloa stated earlier, what St. Paul said, if Christ be not resurrected, your faith is useless.
But how many witnesses were there really? We don't know how many Roman soldiers and spectators were present when he died. The Bible records that his detractors went to Pontius Pilate and said, "Sir, we remember that when he was still alive, that deceiver said, 'After 3 days I am to rise again. Therefore, give orders for the grave to be made secure until the 3rd day.'" So there's evidence that he was certainly dead. There is evidence that Roman guards saw him buried and were placed as guards at this tomb. After the resurrection, they went and reported what they saw.
Some base their trust in the Bible completely on blind faith, apart from any evidence and considerations. This is unnecessary and, in fact, sells the Bible short. Faith in the Bible is rooted and grounded in historic events and places, many of which we're able to point to today.